Chapter 9. Old memories and recent one. A new story, a new day. A new story, a new day. FB. It's 1996. I'm lost in Paris, and it's Sunday, and trains are rare. So I squatted with encounters from the train station and worried my mother to death because I didn't own a phone and was too distracted to find a cabin telephonic. Or maybe I was out of change, one or this other. She called this entire police station covering all the surrounding of the last place I was at, a nightclub. They searched me for 24 hours. When I finally jumped on a train illegally, I then had to hitchhike for 2 hours, what was for me a regular way of transportation. On weekend when I wanted to party in a big cities, she was crying and had all the neighborhood with her, and she wasn't even angry. She was happy I was alive. I remember not seeing this urgency or city event a traumatic one. And I had this happen all the time at 12 years old, heading to a summer camp and getting on the wrong train with a different camp group. After 10 hours of trajectory, I noticed there were barely any girl, and it turns out it was a saucer team. But I apparently wasn't paying attention, and I ended up calling my mom. She panicked and took me step by step back with directions into turning back and heading towards my destination. I didn't make it right away. It took me the other day or so. I slept in when my monitor, who already knew the situation, sailing camp for 30 days in a campsite, they all applauded on my arrival, and I was pretty much the new mascot after that. Those are moments I really enjoy recalling because it reminded me when treated as a valuable, indispensable, unique person of character and individualism, something rare in my day-to-day life now. I don't get very often anymore. This end. My next story title, Wild Ride Through Portland to Salem in a Cadillac. Short story. After drinking all night downtown Portland with my buddy, I left the bar, took his rental key, and drove off. Once I saw the cops, I was too afraid to turn around, so I kept driving with the roof off, my hair blowing. It was a total movie moment. After a few hours, I came back and left his car in his parking lot and went to sleep. Weird, because the next day I felt so liberated, like I had full ecstasy, and we end dating and spending valuable partying time. But there were a fuse between the friends, so we end up losing contact. A few weeks later, I moved to EUN house for 6 days. Drinking after drinking, champagne bottle, whiskey, gambling, eating, smoking, and again drinking until 4 a.m. He kept me up, smoking 2 packs a night. I couldn't take it anymore. He started to act like a deranged person. I left right after with a few migraine. Lessons learned, don't share a place with a heavy alcoholic. Even though we were getting along great for the months after I moved in, everything escalated to the weirdest ending. He was so gross, farting and burping burritos in his sleep, ashtray in a sink and bathtub, pile of dirty clothes lying everywhere, not even one single smoke-free area to breathe oxygen. New story of the day. My RT to BC during New Year's Eve 2008. It was always on my mind to see Canada one day and realizing how close I was living in WA. I had met a few Canadians during a few visits to French meet-up in Tacoma, WA, and I figured if I could get away from my evil, narcissistic roommate for Christmas and do one thing astonishing before the birth of my son that doesn't require thousands of dollars, I will do it. So a day before December 31st, 2008, I put on my biggest sweater, climb up my green Plymouth van, and head out to my destination. As it was getting much colder, I was heading north, but I didn't care as long as I would get to Canada before midnight. So I could actually say I celebrated New Year's Eve there. I was so strong thinking back, dealing with this creep meth addict alone and driving myself to Canada at 7 months pregnant is courageous. And most people would have just been depressed and stay alone with their nausea and back pain. But not me. I never stopped getting out. And that's also the reason I am the perfect prey to loser and weak people, because I care too much to listen to their lamentation and give them too much credit. And when they feel like shit for being so scared to do anything or change anything or deal with their personal issue, and they see that nothing stops me, they can't have it. They just have to try to steal my joy, my strength, and my energy. Not my fucking fault loser exists. Not my fault some people can't be courageous and deal with their issues without crossing others. Not my fault people never feel happy or satisfied. I got stopped by the border. Somehow I appeared suspicious to the cross-border guard. A man and a woman hauled me up and asked me to pull over to search my car. They couldn't understand why I would spend only one evening in BC. They figure I must be up to something. After the search, they find my roommate meth recovery diploma and ask about it, but really nothing illegal. Then the woman gave me a body search. When she realized I was 7 months pregnant and changed attitude, she helped me to my van, and there I went. My next few hours were foggy and breathy. When I got lost, taking a wrong turn, I spent hours driving to dead country road of Alberta and finally reached to Vancouver, BC. It was magnificent. I found a hilltop and got the best sightseeing view over the city. It was blooming of candlelight and Christmas theme light everywhere. After I had enough, I strolled downtown looking for a nice restaurant, but their price was out of this world. On New Year Eve, so I stopped at the convenience store, strike out a conversation or two with locals, and decided to head back to WA, border where I could find an affordable public club to party out. Unbelievable fact, I made it through exactly 5 minutes before midnight. It was the first bar who came along right after the border. I can't remember the city name at all. I ordered a drink and a minute later everyone was shooting 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 2 guys came asking me to play some pool. I partied hard. And around 3 a.m., when it was time to leave, a gentleman proposed to let me hang out in his place so I wouldn't get strained in the snow. My tires were deeply buried. So I accepted his invitation, and it turns out he was the most truthful guy, and we had the best time. I left without even leaving my number. I remember driving and having to stop every 20 minutes to throw up. My stomach wasn't feeling so great, and I started to feel a few quick, and it wouldn't stop. I stopped at a mall and got a Master Perfection reflexology foot massage and head on home. I could tell I had enough of adventure for a month. Finally, I was able to cross out Canada, out my need to explore place. In between my trip, I also got stopped on a sidewalk. My tires were so frozen it wouldn't move, so for 2 hours. I sat in 30 degrees Fahrenheit, freezing. When I got someone to help me and I was rescued by a good Samaritan of Canada, Irma. We lived and survived Irma in Bradenton, Florida, September 2017. September 8, I'm sure that I will be able to write a nice little story after passing this little hurricane of ours. Irma, I have postponed a few stories I needed to end with, but they're only around 5 really. Then I will write some humoristic single dates. Encounter and will start to write from the present time. After that, I will work toward learning new meaningful words and expression, metaphor, literacy, proses to my story. September 12, a new story, Irma attack for 453. Which one is it? I think we all got panicked, more than we should have. The news, reporters, the governor, FEMA, the military troops, the regional policy, and shelters. The live news keeping us updated on the hurricane comes and go every 2 hours. The Facebook pages and group, friends worrying for families, and preparedness team evaluating potential hazardous, damaged, this outcome consequences appraisal, damage detective, the vulnerable site assessment, track, satellite, battles over the best ingenious, powerful tracking device of this nuclear, monstrous, larger than ever, flooding storm hurricane decided to take a swim in our Atlantic Ocean, but heading southwest. First was only a chance for a powerful debris, destruction, catastrophic damage to not only the most tourist but the most wealthy, idyllic island of our British territory, French island and Caribbean Sea, Cuban resident and Floridians. Me, my family and Manatee resident did not truly believe Bradenton huge potential, threatening hurricane. Cyclone for the last 15 years or so. Once it was Miami, then Fort Lauderdale, Tampa and other Florida region. But Bradenton were somehow always out the picture, beside a few extreme storms, but nothing to shiver about. Anyway, to come back to my situation, I was doubtful at first, and then wasn't 48 hours before the presumed date was settled. I instructed and educated myself as much as I could. I followed every single preparedness tips possible. I downloaded an app, Zello, for keeping contact without power, downloaded a bright flashlight, a few games and radio who could keep me busy. I used my power generator and filled up every single emergency team first response application. I downloaded FEMA app and watched every single live news feed on Facebook and Twitter and some YouTube. I exported all important things to my storage. I filled up my waters and got sandbag and kept calm. Made myself ready to pick a shelter if needed. Sure, I wasn't too thrilled on this idea of staying at a shelter, but I didn't want to impose more stress to my family, who had their own fear already. My bro decided to go to my mother's home at the last minute, and so I decided to head to the shelter that I already had registered the day before to make sure I don't have trouble getting in. The first day, nothing happened. I'm thinking, what a waste. The second day, we spent the day watching the news. Nothing happened. Then late night, after midnight, finally, the storm shows up. The wind didn't seem violent, but past 2 a.m., we felt it. Power went out, and it must have lasted 2 hours. The next morning, at 9 a.m., we were released from the shelter, and I went out to check out the dead road and having fun trying to find this only store open. I saw many residents cleaning up the entrance, some people already helping others, and peace in the city. Many policemen had camped surrounding large chain gas station and didn't have the strength to turn their head around. Things were thrown away very quickly, and no home robbery was targeted. This end by VB. A new story. Being a single mother. Being a single mom isn't what I imagined. At 37, I imagined getting married around 27, and that I would have had about 4 kids by now with my husband, and live in a cozy forest cabin, fishing and boating shopping at local markets, traveling twice a year, planning events on occasions, and living a true country life with very happy kids, having many friends, and making us proud. I postponed having babies before I reached 28 because I didn't want to raise a child by myself unless I would have found a partner and being engaged before that. My first pregnancy at 20 was a pure mistake with a Guatemalan, very possessive, that I had been for nearly 3 months and wasn't going to bring a child on this earth when my life was barely started. At 27, I got pregnant again while I was on Depot Vera shot. The cause was purely accidental. And Al, a black guy from Alaska, a very funny but an alcoholic cheat, who just wanted me to be his second baby mama. I wasn't having it. So I could have listened to these endless, nonsense, repetitive stories for the rest of my life and finished a bitter woman. And allowing my child to be caught in the middle? No. I decided it was much wiser to abort. Remembering a flashback when he strangled me in the middle of the night, I had nightmares.